Hello everyone, I'm Valerio Di Donato, CEO at 34Things, and I'm here to talk about how to position your company for acquisitions, which means how to think about being acquired, what process to follow to receive proposals, and how to negotiate the deal to be satisfied after the acquisition of your company. But before that, I'm a huge fan of providing the context of information before digging deep into a subject. Mostly because every talk I listen to is mostly survival bias with a solid narrative built on top. And I don't think mine is any different, but with the right context, everyone can derive useful patterns and reuse them in the future. Which is why I'll start from saying that I wanted to make games for a living as a kid. I got my bachelor's degree in computer science and a master's degree in games technology in Denmark, and I started my career as a programmer. I then founded the 34Things with two friends in the sitting room of our apartment in the north of Italy, a small city called Turin near Milan. We actually had to move to a real office in 2015 when there was no space left in the house, including the balcony. But long story short, we are now one of the biggest game studios in the country with over 70 people working with us, ranging from AAA veterans to pure indie souls. And also, we were acquired by Embracer Group via Saber Interactive in November 2020. So, about us. There are a few things I believe we do differently than other game studios, and this is something we share at all levels within our company. So we believe in data-driven decisions, and we try to stick to data as much as possible. We try to learn from the data and by difference from the expected in every situation. So while we do have some hierarchy now compared to years ago, we try to give as much responsibility and ownership to everyone in the company as possible, which is why the flat structure is essentially still there. We did hire a talent acquisition specialist some time ago, but the whole hiring pipeline is still very personal and tries to investigate emotional intelligence, leadership, and other soft skills as much as the technical ones. And we don't do outsourcing. We try to do literally everything in-house. Up to the end of 2020, we had this strategy where we were building big games with a 2 to 4 years development cycle, and we tried to have as many parallel smaller projects as possible in the meantime. And we use the most of these projects to iterate on a specific pipeline of department, to test out a new group of hives, and so on. Basically, to run experiments. As we grow, running small projects in parallel gets increasingly difficult. And also, probably we need that kind of fast iterations a bit less, having the commodity of spending more time than before in the pre-production phase, where we can focus on de-risking the technical items, fix the pipelines, explore most of the obvious unknowns. Which means we now focus all development efforts into two main projects in parallel, and we cycle teams and resources. So let's dig a bit deeper into our story and the paths that are actually important for you. So first of all, back in the days when we founded the company, we had no intention to sell it. We didn't even consider the idea. We founded our own company to make the games we wanted and dreamed of, not to make someone else more money. So after our big success read out and more development cycles, we started playing around with the idea of joining a bigger group or find someone our service a strong partner for the exact same initial reasons. So we wanted to make the games we dreamed of, and in order to make better games, bigger games, we needed more money, more connections, more leverage to negotiate. So we needed to have a stronger position in the market. And I hope this is enough and not too much context to properly understand the next steps. And with that in mind, now we can start talking about positioning. So it's not like you can put a sign on your office door saying for sale. So companies are almost never sold, but they are always bought. What you need to understand here is that people think in narratives, so you always need a story. You need your strong points and you need to expose your weak points. And what this does is open the table with the right tool set of materials needed to create ideas, specifically their idea about buying your company to do something they want, and that's usually something related to your strong points. Now, while the idea can sell a company, there's always a checklist to be conquered on the other side of the table. So the checklist is all about minimizing risks working together. So past experience with the same companies, big companies, important products, way less important products, everything counts. So don't overthink most partnership, those that don't cost you a lot of money or time, because having your company logo close to the big ones says a lot about your reputation and helps validating you. And the last part is crucial. So relationships take a long time to develop and you need to start as soon as possible. There's no way to know for you when things will mature, when someone will be in the right position to help you out, or the other way around. Make sure during every meeting you take that you clearly state what your company is doing, what is your direction, and also leave some space there for the counterpart to imagine slightly different directions or opportunities to begin working together. So those are already a good sign. You are starting to tick items from the checklist. In our case, we began working with most of these companies way earlier than we decided to start working towards a potential acquisition. Mostly because we were trying to work together to develop interest and awareness about Redout, our first game. And luckily for us, working on a decent success and having the brand out there with those big names is part of the positioning process for both the game and the company. And it was important because working with literally every VR headset out there back in the days, we're talking about 2016 here, made a lot of people happy, players and companies alike. So working with Intel allowed exposure, access to newsletters, to solid resources for the launch of the game and our future as a company. So same goes for many other brands in that list and also not in that list. So being famous in our industry isn't difficult and you are already covering the basics. So making games, going to conferences, making sure that other people, devs and partners know your game, your company, what you're doing. So the next step is about being in the best position possible for something niche or very specific. So let me use our company as an example. As makers of Redout and Redout 2, we make insanely fast racing games. Want to make the fastest racing game in the universe? We are your competitor. Want to do one together? We are your partner. In any case, you are facing us or working with us, not anyone else. And this is why you need clear, precise messaging for everything you do. And again, we talk in narratives. So let's run another example and dive into what we call the franchise approach. You can scale a franchise horizontally and vertically. You have basically two dimensions to play with. And this is important because verticality gives you the ability to build and release sequels to your game and explore the niche deeper and deeper. Scaling it horizontally gives you the ability to tackle different genres, slowly diverging from your main audience without sacrificing the core pillars of the franchise, of course. And this is part of the narrative that we built years ago about Redout and its narrative universe. It's part of who we were as a company and also clear messaging about our direction. Now, there's a lot of context here, so let's try to get a bit more practical, right? So, you always start making a list, mapping out your existing relationships. Then you add all the potential partners in the industry, like all of them. Once done, you start sorting the list by how strong your relation is with the person you want to talk to, and also how much you think you can bring impact there. For instance, if you only have done racing games in your life, Annapurna isn't a great fit to start with, unless they really want to expand into your territory. So add anything technology enough in that list. I mean, Facebook wasn't into gaming 10 years ago. Wargaming wasn't expanding. Intel didn't make dedicated GPUs. So big companies change and they shift focus. So make sure that your list is complete enough to include them. The main point during this phase is to get yourself and your company on the radar. Be aware about you. So don't over push it. There's no need for it. So the process I'm talking about is taken from a book called The Magic Box Paradigm by Ezra Roizen. They structure it in 3 phases: awareness, relationships, and activation. So the first phase, activation, is where you reach out to everyone in your list. My personal advice is to start with the lowest scores in your list so that you have some buffer to practice and get better at it. Once you feel confident, the flow is in place, and your narrative holds like the basic questions they will ask, you can start from the top. And considering you are attending this conference already, you're probably doing a lot of meetings. So you know how a good meeting flows and how to get them. So COVID shifted a lot of work in the last years, but as physical conferences are getting back now, the old ways still work. So, and again, just to be 100% sure here, the main point about the first phase is always that you have to be able to put your company and yourself on their radar. So they have to be aware about you. Don't over push it, don't oversell it. There's no need for it now. And the second phase is where you actually develop a relationship. And this will take time. Most probably years. Don't rush it. Make sure to meet and ping these people for every major occasion. So we have conferences, use Gamescom, GDC, BIC, TGS. Use any major releases from them or from you, milestones, anything. So anything important, anything that can give you an excuse to ping them, do it. And during this second phase, the relationship one, any kind of commercial partnership during this phase is crazy important because it proves the interest and also part of your worth. If this happens, make sure to take the right amount of time to share good news, interesting discoveries, everything noteworthy that happens during this commercial partnership. Tell that to the other company. Make it count. And when you're in these kind of meetings or follow-ups, always try to have a final open-ended question about the future and make it actionable. So where can we go from here? Always works. So you have done everything. You are well positioned. You have relationships. You had a couple of commercial partnerships. The basics are finally in place. Now you want to push to get a deal done. You still have some preparation to do here. So for instance, you have to prepare a data bank, a folder where you have all formal documents from the balance sheets to the employee contracts. Like also every NDA you ever signed, like keep everything organized and tidy. It will be handy soon. So in this phase, you start pushing to your contacts for an acquisition, leveraging the fact they know you and the value that you could bring them. And that value could now go somewhere else. So what you do is literally sending out a mail saying that you are in the process of evaluating interest for an acquisition. In some cases, put a date out there. It works for most of the huge companies. So pick a date 3 to 5 weeks ahead and write that into the mail, specifying you're looking for a high-level, non-binding manifestation of interest from them. Don't do the same for smaller companies. They usually don't react too well to dates and pressure. So yeah, you finally got your first offer on the table. There's a lot to talk about this point on, but I'll keep it to the essentials, which are way too often overlooked. And this is the emotional cost of running a business. So you are an entrepreneur. You know how much stress we accumulate and manage on a daily basis. And that's nothing compared to the amount of stress you'll manage during an acquisition process, or even worse, due diligence. So make sure there is a strong imbalance here. This process has the potential to change your life and the life of your company. But to the buyers, that's just an opportunity. It can be important for them, but it will never be seen as life-changing as it is for you. And this puts a lot more pressure on you than the other side. So to the best of what you can do, try to prepare for this. And well, that was it. I hope everything was clear enough, even with the missing R that I cannot pronounce. And thanks a lot for your attention. Please reach out to me via mail if there is anything I can help you with. I'm really looking forward to attend the event in Busan next year in person. So yeah, take care. Ciao.